Hi, I'm Leonie Jones. I'm the Employability and Diversity Officer here in the Department of Chemistry. You've listened to some of my colleagues talking about different aspects of diversity. In this video, I'm going to talk about some of the family-friendly and flexible working policies that we have in the department and how we've been working to support students. I'm also going to talk a little bit about unconscious bias, which is a really important concept for us to understand when thinking about why some groups are underrepresented in science, and a little bit about the Harvard Implicit Association test exercise that we're going to get you to give. So, you're going to hear a lot about Athena Swan now that you're here in the department. And that's because we're very proud of our Athena Swan Award, but also because a lot of people have worked very hard over a number of years to get and also maintain the award. We have the long-held belief that good practice really does benefit everyone, and that's a really important part of what we're doing. So one of the most important developments has been our family-friendly and flexible working policies for staff. So that means part-time working, things like job shares or annualised hours, and flexi-time. To support this, we hold meetings within core hours, and vacancies are advertised either with the words flexibility available, or some vacancies are advertised with a range of hours. For example, my job was advertised between 0.6 and 1 FTE, so that's between 3 and 5 days a week. There's sometimes a perception that it's not possible to have an academic career and also to have a good work-life balance. But there are a number of examples of academics in our department who've been promoted all the way up to the highest levels whilst working part-time. For example, Professor Lucy Carpenter and Professor Caroline Descent, who is the chair of Equality and Diversity Group. But the key thing to remember is that this policy benefits all staff, and that's one of the reasons it's so successful. So as part of our Athena Swan work, we do a lot of work around supporting students. A big part of this is monitoring data by gender. So we monitor admissions data each year and also keep an eye on degree attainment for both the BSc and the MChem courses. We monitor the award of summer studentships and vacation bursaries, and we also have unconscious bias observers on PhD recruitment panels. Feedback and views from students are a really important part of the process. For this reason, we have 2 undergraduate reps on the Equality and Diversity Group, and we're recruiting for one of those positions now. We run a biannual culture survey, and we also run focus groups in the department. Equality and diversity is a standing item on all chemistry department committees. That includes the Departmental Teaching Committee, Staff Student Forum, and the Board of Studies, where the chair of Equality and Diversity Group updates staff at each meeting. And we've also begun a major piece of work on decolonisation and diversification of the curriculum, which you can get involved in too. Equality and Diversity Group work hard to create an inclusive culture in the department. This equality and diversity training forms part of it. And you'll also have noticed that your supervisor asked you about your pronouns during your first supervision meeting. We hold lots of equality and diversity events, lunchtime fora and seminars that undergraduates are welcome to come to. Support for career development is also really important, and my role as Employability and Diversity Officer means that we're able to offer one-to-one support for undergraduates, PhD students and postdoctoral researchers in the department. We also run a mentoring scheme for undergraduates interested in postgraduate study, where they're matched with a friendly PhD student who they can ask lots of questions. Now, I said that I was going to talk a little bit about unconscious bias, as this is a really important subject. So the chemistry department's work on unconscious bias really started with this paper, which is really important, and you may have heard of it. So in this paper, which was published in 2012, they wrote to a number of academics and asked them to look at a student's application for a lab manager role. They wrote to 127 academic staff in a randomised double-blind study. Each academic received an identical application, but half of them received an application with a male name and the other half received an application with a female name. The academics were asked to rate the applications for hireability, competency, career mentoring, and to suggest a starting salary. Now, the results of the study were really quite shocking. So you've got to remember that each academic saw an identical CV with just the name changed. But the male applicant was rated by the faculty as significantly more competent, more hireable, that they would be offered more career mentoring, and the staff recommended a significantly higher starting salary as well. Now, the most important thing for you to note is that the gender of the academics looking at the applications didn't affect their responses, and this is really the key thing. Both women and men were equally as likely to exhibit bias, and that's really the key message here, that we're all biased. This isn't about men being biased against women, this is about everyone having these unconscious biases. So unconscious bias is something that we all have. This is a bias that we're unaware of and which happens outside of our control. These things are deeply ingrained and they happen automatically, triggered by our brain making quick judgments and assessments of people and situations. Our biases are influenced and learnt by our background, our cultural environment, and our personal experience. So these are things that are learnt, not hardwired. So we see something and we make a quick judgment. We see something and we make a quick judgment. And that is how stereotypes work. So there are many characteristics which might elicit a response. So the obvious ones, such as gender and ethnicity, religion or belief, perceived sexual orientation, but also things like attractiveness, social class, the clothing that you wear, piercings and tattoos, or a haircut. Even your accent may elicit a response and cause you to make a judgment about somebody subconsciously. As I say, these things are learnt, not hardwired, and we're really influenced by our environment, and that's why things like marketing are such powerful forces. The Royal Society has some tips on mitigating against unconscious bias, such as deliberately slowing down your decision making, reconsidering reasons for these decisions, questioning cultural stereotypes, and monitoring each other for unconscious bias. In the next section of this session, we're going to ask you to watch the Royal Society video, which is just a few minutes long. We're then going to ask you to undertake the Harvard Implicit Association test. So the Harvard Implicit Association test is a well-known tool for measuring unconscious bias. And this is a way for you to interact with the concept of unconscious bias in a practical way. Each test takes about 10 minutes to undertake, and the results of your test will be private to you. Nobody else will see them. If you get a result which surprises you, you may want to try taking the test again and see what result you get a second time. So what we'd like you to do is click on the button that says I wish to proceed at the bottom, and that will take you through to a page which gives you a selection of tests. We suggest you start with the gender science implicit association test or the race implicit association test. In each case, you should follow the instructions. You'll be shown a series of words, and the test measures the speed of your response to these words. Not all scientists agree about the implicit association test, so we've also linked to an article which discusses this. We really hope that you found this series of videos and the resources that we've linked to interesting, or at least thought-provoking. There'll be an opportunity to ask any questions that you have on Thursday of week 9 at the interactive Zoom Q&A. Otherwise, you can email me at leonie.jones@york.ac.uk. Thank you very much for listening.